And we welcome in the future Chief Baseball Officer of the Boston Red Sox, Lou Merloni, on the Harbor One Hotline. Hi, Lou.
Well, I'll tell you, the first move I'd want to do is bring my people in with me. So you guys should look at your contracts and see if there's an out over there at WEEI, because you'll be right there with me.
What in the world would you have us do other than be the two guys to walk around to push away like McAdam and Cotillo and Shaughnessy whenever he shows up?
Well, strictly, it's just community, relations. You know what I mean? Trying to get the attitude a little bit different, maybe a little more positive, get people thinking about this ball club in a different light.
I feel, yeah.
You're a people person.
Like a hype guy. I feel like I could be a baseball hype guy. I would be the perfect guy to be, but I would be the good get-back coach. Everybody get away from Lou. And you would be the guy who would be dressed in the Joseph's Technicolor dream coat on the mound getting people fired up.
Let's get happy. Let's get fired up. Only 129 games left.
Yeah, no, it would really work out nice. Billy, too, would be my analytics department.
There you go.
Billy in there, too.
Oh, yeah. Billy and analytics would be great. Hey, Lou, why is this effing guy bunting? I mean, I can hear it now. Lou, what a day yesterday. Heim Bloom is relieved of his duties. What went through your mind when you heard the news?
It's funny because you start wondering what the future is for everybody. You guys have been asking Alex Cora that, and people have been asking me about that, and I wondered. I thought that Heim was maybe in trouble, and when you hear it, it's still kind of shocking, right? You're like, oh my God, here we go. Now another GM search. This is basically your GM job now is 4 years at a time here in Boston. Is that going to hurt them going out and trying to find, that veteran guy, the guy that's been there before? But I think ultimately I look back at Heim, and first off, I really liked the guy. You know what I mean? He was pretty open. You didn't always have to agree with him with his moves. I mean, I remember spending a lot of time with him in spring talking about the off season and how I didn't understand this and understand that. And there was a thought process behind it. But I think ultimately what did Heim Bloom in? I think of the trade deadlines. I think the inactivity, like building a team in the off season, being right about a lot of things, putting your team in a position to maybe, make that playoff push. Not World Series contender, but a playoff push, and really kind of not doing anything. And I think that kind of is – I think that's what did him in.
So do you think that and I know a lot of people are just, they're looking back on some of the deals that he made, and do you think that he just was the wrong guy for the job, that they rushed to hire this guy? Or do you think it's more of they gave him marching orders that were impossible to achieve?
Yeah, I know. This all goes back to ownership, and they hired the guy. I've always felt, that a guy like John Henry, the owners here, they interview a guy, they hire a guy to do the job, and then they take a step back. And then they keep evaluating. But it's like during a hiring process, it's like, as you guys know, it's like almost like the NFL draft. It's like you can get as much information as possible, but until you know what he's like on a phone call, in an off season, negotiating, looking for a trade, trying to sign a guy, until you have some information of how that plays out, you really don't know everything about a guy, in an interview. So you had to let it play out, let him do his thing. And I just think eventually they realized, and this is the one criticism, Christian, that I've always had, is that I think he's done some nice things, but he never goes far enough. It always sort of ends. You know what I mean? Like this year, you could look at this roster and say there were some good moves that were made, and it was like, however, you did state that you're looking for a pitcher who can pitch in the playoffs, and you brought in Corey Kluber. You know what I mean? It's like you needed, Eflin here, or maybe a stronger push for Evaldi or Waka or whatever it was. And it's just there's good stuff here, but in the end, he just didn't go that extra step. And I think a lot of that had to do with decision making. Maybe not wanting to give up those prospects, couldn't make those decisions, had trades on the table, and wasn't willing to pull the trigger. I think there was a lot of that, and I think that ultimately was it.
Hey, Lou, how close do you think Bloom was to accomplishing what the Dodgers are doing? Is it that far away that the Red Sox sort of had to do this? Like, could he ever get them there with his mentality as an executive?
I think that ultimately was a deciding factor. Like, is this thing on the right path? Is he kind of setting out what he wants to do? And I think that's something that he's excited to see how it plays out here, even though he doesn't have this job. But ultimately it was like, okay, but is he the right guy to make that next step? Because now that we're here, now that you got a system, now you got guys under control, is he the right guy? to go out and trade for a starting pitcher? Is he willing to give these guys up? Is he willing to go out and sign that one big, whatever free agent? Or does he still think, I think the quote that always did him in was like he was more upset about missing the diamond in the rough. That whole quote that he had one time as far as signing stars, and it's like, nah, missing the diamonds in the rough hurt me more. Like, I think it's always a search for that, and I think ultimately they just looked at it in the last couple of trade deadlines, and you hear stories about how there were trades on the table and his asking prices were all unrealistic. I felt like his extension talks with some players was unrealistic, as we all know. Devers and whatever it may be, and others. Contract offers to Schwarber that were completely out of the, not even close to the market. Like, there's just a lot of stuff where I think moving forward, they just felt like, he's built it nice, but I just don't think he's the right guy to take the next step.
So we're talking to Lou Merloni, and Lou, do you think another reason why they decided to let him go was maybe ownership felt like the Red Sox brand was being damaged?
Well, yeah, I think that all plays a role into it, but I think to a point they could maybe look in the mirror for some of that too, right? Like, this is, the approach the last 2 or 3 years, you did hire a guy knowing that this was going to be the approach. You did hire a guy knowing that the goal was to kind of trade Mookie Betts the minute he walked in the door. That was going to take a heat, you're going to take heat on that. Build a minor league farm system, and when you just are committed to just that, your big league team is going to struggle a little bit because you're also not willing to go over the CBT. So, if that was the reason why, then I don't like that one because I think they played a role in that as well.
Lou Merloni with Gresh and Fourier here. Lou is with us on the Harbor One hotline talking about everything that went down at Fenway yesterday. Heim Bloom is out. Now it is the next search. And Lou, one of my questions for you is, in baseball, who sets the organizational tone? Is it the guy that the owner hires and puts in the role to be the chief baseball officer? Or is the owner also responsible for setting the path of the organization? I went nuts on the fact that John Henry wasn't around. I can't figure out which way this guy is thinking, left, right, center. I don't know. But even if he doesn't come around for press conference to make people like me happy, is this guy setting the tone for the organization and the way they're to be run? Because, God, it feels like a presidential election. Every 4 years, let's do it differently.
Yeah, and I do feel like, I think the owner always sets the tone, right? And I think if you are, and then it depends on who you hire next, right? If you're a personality like John that just wants to kind of stay away, and I know he's obviously ruled out, but just for reference,
sure.
And he brought in a guy like Theo sets the tone. He now becomes that major presence. When you sort of sit back and you hire a guy like Dave Dombrowski comes in and sets the tone. The experience that he has had in this league. But if you have a young general manager and you're searching for that tone to come from someone, it should come from ownership. And I wasn't crazy that he wasn't there yesterday. This is, I think, a mistake on their part. I think that they always talk about John Henry kind of when he talks to the media, he's afraid he says too much and he's too honest and he gets himself in trouble. Like when he came out and basically one year and just said that, we're going to get under the CBT, and then Sam and Heim are kind of, trying to clean up the mess and talk to people about, no, we're not. But part of me thinks, like, let John Henry speak more. Like, who cares? People they want the truth. You would sort of look and say, look at our wacky owner. The guy can't shut up. He tells us everything, which would be beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, which would be beautiful. I say talk more and be honest and come out and tell people, yeah, we're staying under. Yeah, we're not going to win this year, but we're going to win next year. We're going to spend next year because we're going to go under the cap this year. Like, that's what people want. They just want to hear it.
Yeah, and just quickly for you, because I know you're getting ready to get in there, the people who would get upset also work for him. It feels as if the tail wags the dog over there sometimes versus the dog wagging the tail. If I'm the owner, I sign your check. If you don't like it, there's 29 other teams to go work for.
Yeah, no, and you're right. He says some things, and they turn around and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that." Let's just not bring you in here because we're afraid you're going to actually say something about this Heim firing that's actually going to be headlines, and it's going to cause waves or something.
Man.
But if it's the truth, I mean, we're old enough we can handle it, right?
You would like to think so. You would like to believe so.
Yep.
All right, so okay, I guess possible candidates moving forward. What do you think the likelihood of Alex Cora going the way of Brad Stevens, former head coach, going into upper management? What do you think the odds are of that happening with Alex Cora and the Red Sox?
I think that, and I don't know for that it's his job if he wants it type of situation, but I think that's a personal move for Alex Cora, just like maybe it was for Brad Stevens. When we all sat there and said, well, Brad's not done coaching, he's too young. And I think with Cora, it's sort of like, okay, where's he at with his life? He's mentioned it before about doing it, but he's also mentioned the age of his kids. And it's one of those things where as a father, you might sit there and say, right now this is a really good lifestyle given where my kids are. In 4 or 5 years from now, when they're a little bit older, it's going to be easier to transition into that role. So a lot of that is personal decision, life choices by Alex Cora. Is he ready to just give up being a manager? Like if you bring in a new GM, if that's the route you go, and because he wants to manage and they bring in a new guy, he'll find a job anywhere he wants. And it'll be a good baseball team to manage. It's just a question of if he wants to leave the dugout right now and start running a team. I think eventually, I just don't know the answer if right now is the right time.
Lou, if Cora throws his hat in the ring, and let's work the hypothetical that he does end up getting the job, is Varitek a legitimate candidate? If Alex removes himself, could this be Tech's time?
It was funny. Years ago, I remember his name kept popping up, and I talked to him before, and I was just like, let me know. I need to know if you're ready to do this. And at the time, he's like, no. That was years ago. He's like, I don't want that. And, he's around. He likes what he was doing. And he just enjoyed his job and everything else. And I know that changed recently, too, as far as him, like, wanting to manage. So I think he wants to now. And I think he would be a good manager. This city is very difficult. This city, the big league manager talks to the press before games. They talk to the press after games. I think the Tech at times can be somewhat quiet and shy. I think most people that do know him, and I wonder how he would handle that type of market. But listen, I don't put anything past that guy to kind of figure out how to do it because I think he would be a great manager. His knowledge of the game is second to none. So it'll be interesting to see if Cora goes down that road and if Tech is one of the guys that he's interested in.
So last one for me, we just a couple news about some reports that Peter Gammons put out there about how he talked to one National League executive familiar with Shohei Ohtani, believes that he would be interested in Boston partly because of his relationship with New Balance CEO Jim Davis. But there's obviously an issue with Yoshida, and they also need pitching. So is that now back on the table for real? Not like Wiggy for real, but like for real.
To me, I'm at the point, given that injury, I think what's inevitable, what's coming from him, to me, he's off the table. He doesn't help you. He helps you marketing. It'd be a PR move. He helps you marketing. He helps you with advertising. You don't need another DH. You already got 3. You don't need another one.
Can't you move those guys?
Well, yeah, you could, but
But the fact that he can't pitch is a problem.
If he doesn't pitch to you,
yeah.
I don't know if he fits. I want the kid Yamamoto. He fits more. He's 25. He's an actual pitcher. Like I expect him to pitch for the next 4 or 5 years. Like I am signing Shohei Ohtani to bring a circus to town, to bring a DH to town. He's a great hitter. Of course, he's a great hitter. But am I going to spend $40 million on another hitter when we just watched this season and sat there and said he doesn't even play defense? Like I need to improve my defense. I need to improve pitching. Like, I can go sign this guy. It'd be a great marketing move, but how is he going to help me win? And by the way, I just gave him $40 million. How do I go out and sign Yamamoto? How do I go out and sign, my payroll's $320? That worked out for the Mets. Like, I don't know. I just think with that injury that he has in his arm right now, Christian, he's out. Like, I'm looking for arms, dude. I need arms.
Is your PowerPoint ready to go for your interview, or are you still putting that together?
Yeah, what are your 3 keys to success, Lou?
Someone told me that job, you really can't golf much.
So,
well, you could.
I don't know.
Do whatever you want.
I was just going to say.
You're in charge.
Considering the people who've done the job over there, I would think that if you needed to work in, 9 holes a day, you'd be able to figure it out.
Just bring your phone with you.
Well, listen, I got some contracts coming up. You know what I mean? I'm out there, and I guess if the price is right, we can always just check it out. Maybe go walk the dog, just with the entire executive office and just start talking about baseball.
That's how you should have your meetings, like your scouting reports, your game meetings, your financial statements while you guys are walking the dog.
Yeah. We want and we're rooting for you to get the gig so that we have the
inside information.
So that we have the director of baseball operations and the manager on our show.
Nice.
Because
you get the front office report.
Yeah, we would get the front office report then because Lou's got to play golf in the morning or he's got morning meetings or whatever.
Yep,
be great. Yeah. Down the Duncan. Hey, we're all meeting the Duncan in Framingham, and then we'll tee off in 20 minutes. Oh, baby. Lou, thank you, brother. Hey, you're on the call a bunch this weekend, right?
Yeah, I got radio this weekend, and then I get Nessa next week against the White Sox, and then the Orioles the final week. So I'm pretty busy here. Backload a lot of these games, which is great because now that they're out of it, they're much more fun.
Well, if you, when Lou's got to put anybody who can help Lou with the PowerPoint, we're here to facilitate. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you.
There he goes.
See you, Lou.
The next GM of your Boston Red Sox, Louis Merloni,
Chief
local guy,
baseball officer.
Is that what we're going with?
What's the title?
What about the Brian O'Halloran gig? I mean, he's now in a leadership position. Well, he hasn't decided if he has taken it yet.
Right.
But that would be. I feel like the Brian O'Halloran role would be perfect for Lou. Like he's like he doesn't want all the pie. He still wants. I feel like there's a niche for him.
Are you saying that Lou wants to be the puppet master?